Yo, what's good? Isha, what you was gonna say?
Sometimes trauma responses
Yes.
present themselves as ADHD. And I think that's why a lot of kids in the Black community get diagnosed with ADHD because they've been exposed to a lot. And a lot of times we don't think of it as being trauma because we're just so used to it happening. Well, mom got raped, so her daughter got raped. So that's normal to us in that family. And we can't talk about it, but it's still trauma. And a lot of times people in the Black community don't seek out help because the people providing help don't look like us.
Right.
So we're looking at it like, how are they going to understand me and what I'm talking about? Or how am I going to tell this lady all my business and not feel judged?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
as a social worker, I do child protective services. I have plenty of cases that come in because a mom went in to tell her therapist what was going on with her mental health, and now she has a CPS case. So I think the system and the Black community in impoverished communities is just not working the way it's supposed to be working for us, and that's why we don't seek out mental health
Right.
So,
help.
Would you say
um,
there's a lot of bias that you see? So when people do seek out help, there's a lot of bias that's happening from the mental health
Def-
professional or
Definitely.
right.
Also, too, I think people don't know the reason to go to get mental health services. I think people think that they have to be feeling sad or something like that. Like depression and anxiety shows up in different ways. Sometimes people's body physically reacts. The inability to sleep sometimes, just overactive thoughts, like a lot of these things. And like, it's not normal. A lot of times I hear people talk about like, this generation of kids, they're desensitized and where some people live, um, you've got kids who are in areas where they're losing people left and right, and to the outside looking in, they're just like, oh, that's just what they're used to. No, they become desensitized to it, and it's not that they don't care, but it's like it's traumatic, and their
Mhm.
body is reacting a certain way. Like those are things like they need to learn, like that's not normal. You having issues sleeping and your mind over racing and you having a short fuse, like it's coming from somewhere. And I think a lot of times people just think, oh well, if someone isn't acting out or they're not acting strange, they don't have mental health issues, and that's not the case. So I think for us in the Black community, it has to be mental health period has to be normalized. And then I do agree to your point, Isha, like having someone that looks like you is a game changer in anything, in the education system, in the healthcare system, period. Having someone that looks like you, who culturally understands what you're talking about, is a game changer.
Yeah, representation really really matters. Like it took me a minute to find a therapist
Yeah.
that I felt comfortable with, because there are so many more white therapists than there are, therapists of color. And there's a cultural aspect of it. So even though every therapist may have the foundational understanding of how to treat mental illness, there is a cultural piece that they only understand fully if haven't experienced some of the same things as their patients. So I do think that it's stigmatized in our community, but the reality of it is mental health or mental challenges are not specific to race, it's not specific to gender, and it's not specific to culture. Like we are all human beings, we are all going through this human experience, and this human experience is traumatic in itself. So it always helps to get an objective view to help you process emotions, process feelings, just process, whatever challenges or traumas that you're dealing with. And I think we also need to do a better job at checking in on our friends and allowing our friends or creating a safe space for our friends to be open and honest. So when we're hitting up our friends and saying, hey, how you doing? Are you good? And if they say, oh, I'm not good, not brushing it off and being like, oh, you playing, or whatever. Like kind of digging deep and say, well, what's going on? What's good? Is there anything that I could help you with? I don't think we really do a good job as a community just lending a hand and saying, hey, I'm here to support you, I'm here to help you, if you need anything. We a lot of times, especially the men, tell them to suck it up, oh, you're going to be
I
good
know.
tomorrow, or,
Yeah.
don't worry about it, and that's not okay, because the reality of it is we don't know if they're going to be good tomorrow, and we don't know if whatever it is that they're going through can be sucked up. Maybe this was their last straw, and us saying, oh, well, suck it up, leads them to believe, well, I can't share how I'm feeling with this person or anyone else. I'm just going to go ahead and hold it in. And that it builds up, and then we end up in situations where people shut down, or where people feel like they have no other outlet other than to turn to suicide, or to turn to cutting themselves, or to harming other people. So yeah, culturally, I think we really damn ourselves in a sense by expecting Black women to be strong all the time, and expecting Black men to never, express or show their emotions. That's definitely our flaw culturally, I feel.
Caddy, I got a question because something I just want to get clarification before I qualify it. So you said we're all going through the same thing because it's a human experience.
Oh, not going through the same thing. We're all going through we're all going through a human experience. So
But
all
you,
of our experiences are independent of each other, but we're still going through a human experience, which means
regardless of race.
No, the
regardless of
black
race.
experience would probably be a little heightened than.
My question is, if it's like regardless of race, why do we need to identify with the therapist?
Oh, because there's a cultural aspect. So don't conflate what I said. Like, what I'm saying is we all have traumas, regardless of race, gender, or any demographic. But there is a difference when addressing that trauma. And in addressing that trauma, it always helps to have representation and the clinician that we choose to help guide us through those traumas. So to have a therapist that looks like me, that maybe is a part of the LGBTQ plus community, so that way I can share experiences, and that person, that therapist, will understand exactly where I'm coming from. That makes a difference. If I go to a white woman, a straight white woman, and I talk to her about some Black shit, she may only be able to understand to a certain extent, because she doesn't have
Yeah,
any of her own
right.
experiences to associate with.
So with that, so Adrian, let me ask you. So you're saying that the only way we can achieve success in therapy is with sympathy, right? They have to know the experience. So therapists go to school all this time, and are we saying empathy is not enough?
No, empathy is enough. It's not sympathy. Yeah, so you definitely have to be empathetic, and you have to have a high level of EQ to understand someone past your experience. And so therapists are typically taught that, but there's still a learning curve, a cultural learning curve that they miss if
Yeah.
they don't have that. If they
Sim-
don't have that intrinsically, meaning if they don't come from the same type of background or a similar background. So, meaning I could probably get help from a Black male therapist, but he still will be missing the gender aspect for me. But he'll still be able to understand the Black experience to a certain extent, where we can, kind of relate. You see what I'm
Okay,
saying? Like
I understand, but I just want
Or
to make
finding
it.
a therapist that truly is without bias,
But it
right?
sounds
It's a
like
level of comfort.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I was about to say, Alex. It sounds like more comfort, right? Because empathy, based on what you're saying, Caddy, just
Mhm.
being transparent, it doesn't sound like it's enough, right? Because
Right.
empathy means you did not have the experience, but
Hmm.
you make me feel in a way
Hmm.
to where you at least understand it or
Right.
respect it, you know? So and I'm just asking, right? Because I agree. Like my wife, we had to have a Black OBGYN, OBG, the motherfuckers that take the babies out. Yeah, like they had to be Black and a woman, right? For several reasons. you know? But so I get it.
Yeah,
Adrian, now sorry, Alex, I just cause his shit, he's not blurry. We can hear him okay. So I just want to
it's
give him a
working
chance
now. Good job,
before he
Adrian.
drop off.
Yeah, I switched to the laptop, man. I switched to the
Thank God,
laptop.
man.
My bad. But nah, I think having somebody who looks like you, it's important for. I don't think it changes the effectiveness of the therapist, right? And I'm a therapist and I have a therapist, but it's just more about the patient or your client. They feel more comfortable because the way we are trained, we're neutral
Hmm.
regardless. So sometimes having a therapist who can relate to you, sometimes that can be a bad thing too, right? Because then they can start putting their own like personal views on the situation or how they view it, and then they can be triggered, and so now both of y'all, messed up. So I wouldn't necessarily rule it out just because they look different. Sometimes that may be a positive, meaning that they're literally going to just sit there, focus with you on your thoughts. Because when you go to therapy, I always describe it like, okay, like you're the expert on your own life. You're driving the car. I'm just in the passenger seat with you. We're going to explore the different things that you've been through. We're going to come up with different goals. Then I'm going to help you get to where you want to get to by maybe challenging some of those negative thoughts, some of those negative patterns, as well as just giving you different tools, whether you're struggling with anxiety, depression, and using different things like that. So I don't really need to look like you or understand what you are going through in order to help you reach a goal. So I think it goes both ways. But like me personally, my therapist is a Black woman. And that's just what I prefer. But it's a lot of other therapists, that I work with that don't look nothing like me. It's majority white women, but they know what they are talking about. Mm-hmm. So that's my thoughts. But I do think everybody should go to therapy. Because like it's just mental. So even if it's just for a checkup, you go to get a yearly checkup for your physical health, you should go for a yearly checkup for your mental health. You don't got to go every week. And it can be something based upon, what it is that you're going through. I know I put off going to therapy for a while because I felt like I'm already a therapist. You're not going to be able to tell me nothing I don't know anyway. So it won't be, helpful. But she got me right. She definitely checked me. So never mind. I'll save my next thing for my final thought.
All right, look. We up against it. This conversation must continue.
Yes.
We'll phrase the question in a different way to conjure up some different thoughts and aspects. Having a therapist and the people that went to school and actually done it on a panel makes a huge difference. But I think it's important for us to all to have some type of understanding so we can have the conversation, and have discourse if necessary. So,